All right, you might see that I have moved. Probably over the next set of videos, you're going to see me jumping back and forth between the place you saw me last time and this place. It's getting hot, it's summer, and so I moved back in my little hot apartment in Vancouver to try to get out of the direct heat that comes from my windows. So yeah, so you see my kitchen over there and whatever. Anyway, that's the story behind the sudden change of scene, and you might see that a bit. But the important stuff isn't happening on my little screen. It's happening down in what we're doing. And after the last video, I realized I tried to just brush off mobile development, but I can't just brush that off, not in good conscience, because mobile development is super, super important in our web development in general. It's important to bear in mind that a lot of times when you are looking at the analytics of your site, when you're learning who's coming to the site and who's looking at it, which you can do with some different tools out there, most of the people are going to be on mobile. Chances are most, as in 60, 70, 80% are going to be visiting on mobile. So really when you're making stuff for the internet, you're making stuff for people on mobile devices almost all the time, unless it's very specialized. So for me to leave it out would be, yeah, kind of a disservice. Now, it's a bit complicated, but it's not the end of the world. We need to learn a little bit more about Bootstrap. And mainly what we're learning about here is more about the column layout. We're learning to tell Bootstrap what to do at different screen sizes. And the other side of it is being able to test this, right? So, okay, first of all, let's look at the testing it thing, and then we'll dive into the Bootstrap docs. So here, actually on our code sandbox thing, you can see on the right here, as I drag, we get different layouts. There's like these points at which the container jumps like that. And that's preset to set with kind of default widths. So you have like your tablet in portrait and in landscape, you have phones in portrait and landscape, and you have desktops, and there's all these different like breakpoints. That's the term we use. And down here, as I keep going more and more, we eventually get to something that's kind of like a mobile device. Now, we can also do that on our actual screen here. When we go to the inspector, there's a little button up here, right here, that allows you to change it to a mobile type mode. And up at the top, there's different kind of presets. So I have on iPhone XR, but there's also, you can set your own responsive one or try out, you know, like an iPad Air, and you can try it in portrait and desktop. And this gives you some sense of how your site might look on those devices. It's important to mention that this is not a good substitute for a real mobile device. It's okay for like a quick view, but lots of times there are little weird things that are going to happen on your real device that aren't going to work that way. For instance, there's that notch here at the top that most of the time in the browser isn't going to be a big deal, but things like this, weird little layout things that affect the real phone versus your little ideal environment here in the browser simulating it. But that's really valuable for us nevertheless, okay? So we can see kind of what happens as we change things around. So, okay. So when I load this, actually last time I had just been loading something else that, you know, for this episode, but you can see, okay, it looks all wacky like this, the same way that ours looks all wacky here. So what do we got to do? We got to learn how to tell the columns that they shouldn't be split in 3 anymore, because right now the columns are still split in, oh, whoops. When I open DevTools now, it automatically opens in that mobile mode, so it changes my whole page. We can just look at this one. So when I look at this, it's still split into these 3 columns. But we don't want those 3 columns anymore because on mobile, it doesn't really make sense. On desktop, it made sense because the whole width was too much, but now it doesn't. So the grid system in Bootstrap has a way to tell it. You have a way to tell the grid system in Bootstrap like when you want, what width you want the columns to be at certain screen sizes, okay? This is generally called responsive development. The idea is it's responsive to different screen widths, right? That's where the term comes from. And we call them breakpoints. I mentioned that before as the container was getting smaller. We have these kind of general sets of breakpoints, and Bootstrap has a number of them. There is the LG, which is large, MD, medium, SM, which is small, and XS, which is very small. And you can find that down here. If you want to read through this actual page, you'll find the specific breakdowns. Most of the time, what I would just do is for mobile and for most of the time iPad stuff, SM is going to do just fine. Basically, I have like my site. There's my cat down in the corner. I have my site at the plain desktop view, and then I have one for SM, which kind of covers my mobile devices. That's generally a very quick way to do it, but you can do it in more detail. So, okay, how do they tell us to do this? Well, they have these different things. It's like, instead of just call, which we have as the current class for our general one, just call, meaning column, it says like column SM8, column SM4. Now, we talked last time about that 12 divisions thing that we actually used here when we were saying column 6, and actually this is part of what I'm going to be showing you. I'll delete that for now. But we have that column 6, and that kind of thing. So we have that same system in these smaller breakpoint. And they have one that shows here where you have 2 of them at once. Now this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be telling it what to do in lower screen sizes, like by default, and then what to do from a certain screen size and up. Okay, that's kind of how it works on the way that Bootstrap does it. The one you tell it that's just without any indication of the screen size applies from like the extra small to wherever the other one comes in. So, okay, why don't we just do it? So right now we have column, and it's just column. I'm just going to change it to column 4, which represents the same, it's the exact same thing, you know, column 4 and column 4. So when we save that, it should all be the same. And yeah, it's all the same. So that's out of 12, there's 3 of them, so each of them is worth 4 of the width. Now, in order to shift this around, what I was mentioning before is we have to tell it to switch to 4 only when it passes the small level. So we're going to make this call SM4, okay? And we're going to make the overall thing column 12, so that by default at the very small screen size, it's column 12, and then it changes to column 4 once it passes the small size. And then we can mess with this. So let's see what actually happens here. So we change it to column 12, column SM4. Okay, we save, and we see, okay, cool. Oops, I reloaded this whole page. We see, oh, did my changes get removed? No, they're still there. We see here, when I reload, it looks a little better. Okay, great. Now, if I change this to portrait, we again get it not at the right, you know, it looks a little wacky still. Or let's say I change to the iPad, it looks okay, but it could probably look a little better. So maybe what I would change this to is, instead of the SM, I would change this to the MD, the medium. So break to 4 columns once you hit the medium breakpoint. Okay, so now we save that again. We reload this. Okay, it's still like that with the iPad Air. With iPhone XR, it's still like that. Okay, so it doesn't seem to make a huge difference here. We might want to test on our mobile device, but generally the SM or the MD is kind of where we're going to aim for with this. So we can see it already looks better here. And this is pretty good. We don't need to break these into different columns. We can see as we move this in and out, at some point it becomes so small that it's ridiculous. But as we move this out, it will suddenly break. And see right there, it broke, and now it's in this column. And that doesn't actually look that good. So maybe we'd want to change it so that that would look different. If we reload this and have it be the full width, it still looks good. But everything up to that, it kind of doesn't look quite right. So maybe we even change this again to be LG4, so that it only happens at the very large screen size. And we change this one to LG. So in the end, we have this kind of like, okay, this is our sort of mobile view, and this is our sort of desktop view. And that gives you just a very general sense of how to mess with the columns. Again, you're going to want to read up on this a little. It can be a little bit mind-bending working out how it all works, but you will get it after trying it a little bit and throwing these different columns at it. Anyway, we'll see you in the next video.